Greetings and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well today. Fortunately, I'm guided by Spirit. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. Disclaimer: all cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. So I'm on the channel, and thank you for watching. Do appreciate it. So I'm going to start a series on the channel looking at the Missing 6 investigation. And in the first episode, I'll be looking at the first case. Now, some backstory about this case. This is a very infamous South African pedophile ring crime that took place during the 80s, possibly into the 90s, South Africa during the apartheid era. Now, as a note, there's believed to be more than 40 child victims in this case, of both sexes and races, including Africans, Indians, and mixed race, also known as coloreds in this country. To date, we only know of the missing 6, and this is due to the under-policing and reporting in the non-white communities during apartheid South Africa. And there's believed to be a lot of people of color that were actually abducted as well during these cases, so we do acknowledge that. Unfortunately, there's no paperwork, and in fact, I personally have a history with this case. When I was in training in 1991 with my mentor Vanessa, we were actually looking at this case, and I kept this case. I was watching this quite closely, and this was actually 2 years after. 1991 was 2 years after the last abduction. Okay. And then again in 1996, I met up with someone else who was also interested in the case, and we were actually investigating. Turns out that guy that I was kind of sharing information with turned out to be a Satanist himself. I will try to limit the F-bombs in this case because it does involve children, and of course the blood is simmering. So we only know of these cases. There's also another girl by the name of Sonia Peel who was also abducted around this time but was never considered part of this. And my senses have, over time, have told me she was part of it as well. And of course, the big question around this case, because we know the outcome. The only outcome information we know about this case today is that they were allegedly abducted by, because it still hasn't gone to court, right? The girls were abducted by these two people here. The lady, we can say in short, is known, we can call her Joey, for short, Joey. And this is her details here. And we'll call this guy here Gert. And here's his details now. The other name for the case, and I haven't advertised it yet because why must we advertise their name, is also known as the Van Rooyen girls. Okay. Now the reason why we are left in the dark as it is, these two cowards the trail got picked up that they were abducting girls because just before this scene here with the car, one girl escaped. And we will look at that in the further series as we go deeper into the series. But these two, having realized they were being followed, swerved, stopped the car and shot themselves, right? The lady shot herself first, or it's believed that Gert shot her and then he shot himself. So effectively, unfortunately, they have gone to the grave with 99% of the information. Okay? And unfortunately, these girls have never ever been found again. And this has been since the late 80s, early 90s. We'll get into the specifics. But there, as mentioned, there's led to believe at least 40 kids involved here. Now, there is a bigger conspiracy involved in this case. It is believed that the then Minister of Defense, Magnus Malan, and the Minister John Wiley were involved in pedophile rings. Let me reinforce the context and political landscape at the time. It was a white-dominated government, not people, government, who were brutal, to say the least, who were using government resources to abduct and kidnap, allegedly, the missing 6 as we know it, and we'll go deeper as we go deep in the series, part of this issue as well, the lost boys of Bird Island. And let me just say, people have been murdered in this country, even related to the publishing of the book. So there are still Boere links running pedophile circles or within their own little shacks. But unfortunately, these two pedophiles took information to the grave. So the mystery still remains where and what happened to the girls, who were the other kids, and who was involved. So to kickstart the series, the first, unfortunately, victim was a girl by the name of Tracy Lee, age 14. And even checking more information yesterday, there's still very little information. I wonder if things are getting wiped even today, right? So Tracy Lee went missing on August the 1st, 1988. While on the way to Cresta shopping center. So back in those days, it would have been a smaller center, but today it's quite a large, very large, actually one of the largest super malls, if you like, in Randburg, Johannesburg. And eyewitnesses say, or one eyewitness says, they saw Tracy getting into a vehicle, a VW Beetle in those days, VW Beetle, and was never seen ever again. And no other information. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I've got the two perpetrators here, their date of births, as well as in this case, Magnus Malan. Now there would have been a whole network of people involved, right? But the puppet master is thought to believe Minister Magnus Malan. Okay. So we're going to play ping pong and have a look, and we're going to go through the series. Now, the second perpetrator, or the second puppet master, or at least side hustle to the main puppet master, was taken out just before this happened. And after this happened. Okay. So on August the 1st, 1988, let's just go in here. We note the year 1988 as 26/8. Now, if we look at it on a negative, because of course we know that Tracy Lee was abducted, 26/8 is a very aggressive number, and we see, in fact, there's a stack of 8s here actually. And South Africa, as an interesting point, is a number 8. We note there the paedophile known as Magnus Milan is a 8 as well. And 8 also speaks to the war machine. 8 is war. And this pig here, was head of the army, the war machine, has a life path 8. Okay. So let's just stay zoomed out for a moment, because when Tracy Lee is abducted, which is here, in that zone, we note the outcome, 35, 8, 17, 8, 8. Pings directly on Mr. Pedo here. And there's always been debate that, believe me, this is not a given, right? What I'm telling you. No one, there's people have that theory. There's other theories. There's a lot of theories going around about this case. And this is the issue, that these two, let's call them child haters, took the story to the grave. And it was never, there was very lack of investigation around it, because obviously the same people in the police force were also these white supremacists who governed the land at the time. So we see the 35-8. Now, we're going to get some other matches, because this could be a coincidence, right? Let me just refresh the... Okay. When I pulled out these numbers yesterday, the first number that alarmed me here was this 10-1. Because 10-1 speaks to a larger grouping with financial interests, with the one outcome is financial. And we note that the 36-9, 27-9, 18-9 pings directly on Gert, the male perpetrator. I didn't bring their pictures on here because I couldn't stand to look at their faces. And of course, for me, I try to even, part of a team, we try to pitch a crime series which included this case, but never really got off the ground. Too many fingers in the pot. So let's just see. So there's 8s around this time. You see here, it's pretty much what we're going through now. All these 8s. This has been recorded in August, so if you are watching it out of August. Because it was an 8 year, and August brings around all this violence, aggression. The energy is so intense with all these 8s around, I must say. Now, so let's just be clear here. So, Tracy Lee is abducted on the Monday. So therefore, these 3 days that follow, we'll look at it in the real as well. But I'll also look at it from a reflective point of view, reflection of who and what happened here. And I feel really blessed that I'm able to do this now through numerology and being my psychic self, right? And not the producer crime guy. Okay, so let's have a look here. The next big alarming number that indicates groups, higher ups, 37-10-1. There's definitely a syndicate going on here. 37-10-1. These are your officialdoms, your ministers of defense, etc. Not these two lowlifes. But we're talking Ministers. I'm not joking. Ministers. 28-10-1. Something, when I was meditating on this yesterday, 28-10-1 tells me something may have gone wrong in this situation with Tracy. Because for me, so yeah, we got the higher ups making the decision, right? Or they're in play. Okay? All with the same outcome, 10-1 money, motherfuckers. I'll try my best. The issue here is the 28-10-1. It's almost like there's a dispute argument situation. So something may have gone wrong, not as intended, is what I'm feeling. There is still outcome, 10-1, 19-10-1. But this to me looks suspicious. So the theory is they would abduct the girl or girls. They would take and then they would take the girls to their home in Pretoria, which is approximately in the day, probably take you about a good 50 minutes, depending on what car you had. But it's not a long drive. It's like 50, 60 kilometers from Johannesburg. Keep them there and then to wherever they needed to go. Because there was one girl, and we will look at that later in the series, who actually created the situation, who was taken to the house in Pretoria. I've actually been out to that location, so as we go on, I'll share those photographs. We'll use this as an introductory. So we definitely got big transactional numbers on the scene here. Definitely syndicates and groupings. Now, there's one theory that the girls were abducted and trafficked overseas to Arabian or Middle Eastern type countries. When I heard that did feel a little bit off, strange, because in my early days, or let's say during the 90s, or when 91, 92, I always felt Asia. I mean, I still, in 91, I was just started grade school to become a psychic, right? But I always saw this pink aura around this case, and that's why I've made everything pink. That's where the pink comes from. So if we look now at August the 4th, from a reflection point of view, so what happened on that day that Tracy Lee was kidnapped? What happened? This is what I'm looking at. Not what happened on the actual day, but from the perspective of what do these numbers tell me about what happened on Monday? So 4, we already have, okay, that is definitely obviously a male energy, but it also speaks about restriction. Restriction. Remember, we've already got 888s around. Aggression is in the air. And in the middle here, we have a 12-3, which in a way is like an arrest. A soft kidnapping, if you will. Because who knows what they said to her to get in the car, right? And she actually lived just up the road. She was, and I believe we may have been in holidays, school holidays. But we've got all these transactional numbers here. And the alarming one remains, this 38-11-2, because that's not just a male and a female perpetrator driving around looking for someone to abduct and kidnap. This is organized crime situation here. There's organizations involved. There's more than 2 or 3 people involved here. The issue that I'm having, this day was not good for her, obviously, even going in from here, because these numbers here, 35, 8, 17, 8, and I am being cautioned, I'm not going to be graphic, are not nice numbers. Very aggressive, violent on the body. So I believe Tracy would have been held overnight, because if we go to the next day here, August 4, I'm just going to see how much more information we can get here. Because August 5, as from a reflection point of view, is not a good day either. It's actually a very bad day. And we see that 13-4 there. That does speak about children, but the 13-4 also pings here on Joey's date of birth as well. We'll look at their specific profiles as we go, but just to mention, look at Joey here. She has double 16 sevens. Double 16 sevens. Serial. And look at her male energy, 40 with an outcome 4. Joey was very male. A lot of male energy. I mean, how does a woman abduct children to please adult men? That is just ludicrous. Here we have an abduction number 21-3. Here's where we start seeing the network numbers, unfortunately. The 30 with an outcome 3 is a collection of women. This case, children. You see, here's this terrible number that I keep talking about, 39-12-3. This has been held against your will with force, with bad intentions. So we've already got matches with these guys here. And in fact, the 4 in the day pings on Joey, as I mentioned, but it also pings on Minister Magnus Malan. And he's got double 13-4s. Interesting about Minister Magnus Malan's, let's just have a look at that now. Interesting to note about his date of birth profile. He's got lots of feminine energy here. Huh? I mean, there's nothing wrong with a man who is leading the army, leading the country, to have feminine energy. There's nothing wrong with that. 13-4 is like the child. And then the 31-4 is like the destroyer of childhoods. 31-4 is the destruction of childhood. So there's a very good likelihood, in fact, probably very high likelihood, that Minister Magnus Malan, as a child himself, was abused. That's why there was no empathy felt towards all of these children, and we only know of 6 of them, all of these children that went missing while the streets of South Africa were in chaos. There was no resource put on these things. All resources were put in the so-called townships, making sure African people don't come into the white areas. And then meanwhile, the pedo ring that soon became revealed after this were having a field day and were supported by military assets. So if we continue the sequence into, this would have been Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Saturday, yeah. Oh, by the way, Friday, and I do not make light of this, Friday, which is this day, yeah, there's also a big party filled with children. And who's the party for? Yeah, these, trying my best. Look at these motherfuckers here. 40 with an outcome 4. Also pings on Joey the rat. Has the present. Now this is a weekend, Friday, Saturday. Here's the party here. I believe there may have been some kind of farewell party, and we'll look at the theory of the being transported out of the country. But certainly there was activity before they left, or if they did leave, but we'll look at that. So here's the weekend. In this red block, this is Friday, Saturday. So here could be an export number here. Import, export, 14.5. So perhaps there's this weekend of fun, so-called fun. Party, because 30 is party. Here's all the males, pig motherfuckers. 14.5, older men, younger girls, boys. Outcome children. Pigs, man. So there's definitely, for me in my mind, and what I see here, definitely organizational activity around this event. Larger groups, and even military assets, 40 military assets. A lot of pings already, and this is, we haven't even got started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it here. There is a lot to go through, and to measure the brain capacity and the recording that would be involved in this. I'm going to leave it here, but there's certainly evidence of higher organization and people are involved. We will go deeper for the sake of the children. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please leave your thoughts. If you have any additional information on the case, please share it if you can, or email me with information if you'd like to be anonymous. I'm going to go deep. I've been wanting to go deep on this case for a very long time, and I'm going to go deep. All right, stay safe, stay alert. See you in the next one. Bye for now.